This ain't what everybody get. You know what I mean? This is the most definitely the most exclusive hangar on the entire strip.
What if I told you that some of the biggest names in rap don't just ride in private jets? They live in them. We're talking king-size beds at 40,000 feet, fur seats, gambling tables, movie theaters, casinos built into converted cargo planes, dollar signs literally painted on the fuselage, and one jet that got raided by federal agents and found loaded with cocaine, heroin, and a gold-plated handgun. From Drake turning a beat-up cargo plane into a $185 million flying palace, to Diddy's Empire-class aircraft being rented out to strangers while he sat behind bars, to Rick Ross claiming Drake's fighter jet literally shot his plane out of the sky. This is not your average celebrity flex story. This is rap aviation, where the egos are as big as the engines, where the beef doesn't stop at the tarmac, and where one man spent $55 million on a jet that never existed. Every single story on this list is wilder than the last, and the one nobody saw coming, it'll have you questioning everything you thought you knew about hip-hop wealth. Buckle up. This flight is about to get very, very interesting. Let's start at the absolute top. And when we say top, we don't mean top of the Billboard charts top. We mean sit down, close your mouth. How is any of this even legal top? Because the first name on this list didn't just buy a private jet. This man owns what can only be described as a flying city. And that man is Drake. Aubrey Drake Graham, the sixth god. The man who single-handedly turned heartbreak into its own musical genre. The guy who went from Wheelchair Jimmy on a Canadian teen drama to the most streamed artist on the planet. Drake doesn't do anything small. And when it came time to get himself a private jet, he didn't just call up a dealer and pick something off the lot. No. Drake ended up with a Boeing 767-300F. You know what a Boeing 767 normally does? It hauls cargo across continents. Boxes, freight, packages. Drake looked at that same aircraft and said, yeah, but make it OVO. Now here's where the story gets genuinely unbelievable. In 2019, a Canadian cargo company called Cargo Jet didn't sell Drake the plane. They gifted it to him through a branding deal. A gifted Boeing 767. Let that sink in for a second. Most people get gift cards on their birthday. Drake got a commercial aircraft. But here's the thing. The gift was just the beginning, because after the upgrades, after the full interior transformation, after every single custom touch was added, this aircraft is now valued at $185 million. $185 million for a plane that used to carry boxes across Canada. The exterior alone is a statement, a sky blue cloud design covering the entire fuselage, created by the late Virgil Abloh, one of the most iconic creative minds in fashion history. The OVO owl logo stamped proudly on the tail, and a slogan running along the side that reads, "If you're reading this, we left." That is not an airplane. That is a declaration. Step inside Air Drake, and your entire understanding of what is possible inside a metal tube flying 6 miles above the earth completely falls apart. There are 3 private bedroom suites, king-sized beds, mirrored walls, flat-screen televisions, a full movie theater for mid-flight screenings, a proper business lounge because apparently Drake is signing deals somewhere over the Atlantic on a regular basis. And then there is the main lounge, and this is where things get genuinely unhinged. Custom OVO pillows everywhere, fur seats, and before anyone gets too worked up about the fur, the design team made a conscious decision to go warmer, more luxurious, more inviting. It works. And then right in the middle of it all, a full casino setup, custom chips, cards, a gambling center built into a repurposed cargo plane somewhere above the clouds. The whole thing seats up to 45 people. It still holds cargo space for tour equipment in the back. And honestly, from every single angle, this aircraft screams 6 God. In 2025, the interior went through another full renovation. The vibe shifted from bold and pink to something darker and more dangerous. Purple LED lighting throughout, gold accents on every surface, velvet couches that belong in a Monaco penthouse suite, materials that have absolutely no business being inside what was once a commercial freight carrier. This is not transportation. This is a flying album rollout, a mobile stage, a casino, A palace, all crammed into one aircraft. But with all that attention comes all that heat. Environmentalists have been loud and consistent about the carbon footprint of running a jet this size for personal travel. Social media keeps cooking Drake every time flight data leaks. In the wider conversation about celebrity wealth gaps and environmental responsibility, Air Drake keeps showing up as Exhibit A, but the plane flies on, completely unbothered. And honestly, that is very Drake of it. Now, from the clouds above Toronto, we move to a story that didn't just make headlines for being spectacular. It made headlines for lighting one of the loudest and most uncomfortable conversations about celebrity privilege in recent memory. And that story belongs to Travis Scott. If Air Drake is a palace, Travis Scott's jet is a nightclub that somehow learned how to fly. The Embraer ERJ-19 O Lineage 1000 variant, originally a commercial regional jet, built to move regular everyday passengers on regular everyday routes between regular everyday cities. Travis Scott looked at that aircraft and completely flipped it into a $72 million personal playground. $72 million for what was essentially a commuter plane. The upgrade culture inside hip-hop is genuinely something else. The outside sets the tone immediately. A custom livery that costs $30,000 on its own. Sleek lines and Astroworld aesthetic nods running throughout the entire exterior. Because Travis Scott doesn't just slap a sticker on a jet, he themes it. Inside, the cabin is broken into different zones, built for different vibes. Club-style seating for that deep, fully unbothered lean. Proper dining areas, not a tray table situation. Advanced entertainment systems with big screens and professional-grade sound setups. High-speed Wi-Fi and an ultra-long range of up to 4,500 nautical miles nonstop. That means New York to London without a single fuel stop. Think of it as his utopia stage setup, but airborne. A space designed for beats, for brainstorming, for lounging, and for the kind of organized, creative chaos that follows this man across every continent he touches. The plush leather, the premium acoustics, the modern finishes throughout. It is all dialed in perfectly. This is not just a flex. This is infrastructure for a lifestyle that genuinely never stops moving. But here is where the story takes a very sharp left turn. Because Travis Scott's jet didn't just go viral for being impressive, it went viral for sparking one of the biggest celebrity privilege debates of the entire decade. In 2022, photos dropped showing his jet parked side by side with Kylie Jenner's pink-striped Bombardier Global 7500, Kylie Air, neon interiors, custom stairs, both planes sitting next to each other like a highs and hers set for people who genuinely cannot comprehend that this looks insane to the rest of the world. The image alone was damning enough, and then the flight data came out. Short flights, absurdly, almost satirically short flights, climate anxiety-inducing trips that lasted about as long as a slow drive across town, burning massive quantities of jet fuel for what any reasonable person would have handled in a car. Critics called it selfish, out of touch, disgusting. Materialistic excess at its absolute worst, and those were the polite takes. All of this landed in the shadow of Astroworld, a moment that had already hit Travis Scott's public image extremely hard, making the whole twin jet photo situation even more brutal. And then in 2025, rumors started circulating of a second jet, more fuel on an already fully roaring fire. The plane became a symbol, not just of success, but of the growing gap between the ultra-wealthy and everyone else just trying to survive. Whether that framing is entirely fair is a separate debate. What is not up for debate is this: the jet is spectacular. The drama surrounding it is equally spectacular, just pointed in a very, very different direction. Now, if Travis Scott's story is about spectacle and controversy, our next entry is about the complete opposite. Because this next man built one of the most legendary careers in the history of hip-hop by being raw, private, and intensely guarded about everything personal. And when it came time to move through the world at 40,000 feet, he did it exactly the same way he does everything else. Quietly, deliberately, and with zero interest in what anybody else thinks about it. That man is Eminem, Marshall Mathers, Slim Shady, the greatest rapper of all time according to a very large and very passionate portion of the planet. A man who came from nothing, from a trailer park in Detroit, from food stamps and borrowed couches and a childhood that would have broken most people before they even got started. And now he owns a Gulfstream G65 OER, one of the most technically advanced and capable private aircraft ever built on this earth. And here is what makes this so perfectly Eminem. He did not buy it for the flex. He did not post about it. He did not give tours. He did not put his name on the engines. He bought it because it works. And the Gulfstream G650ER works better than almost anything else in the sky. Ultra-long range of 7,500 nautical miles non-stop. That means Detroit to Tokyo without landing once. Tokyo to London without setting foot in a single airport terminal. For a man who guards his privacy the way Marshall Mathers does, that is not a luxury. That is an absolute requirement. The ability to move anywhere on the planet without dealing with crowds, without paparazzi, without the chaos that comes with being one of the most recognizable human beings alive. At $70 million, this aircraft gives him exactly that. Step inside and the interior tells you everything you need to know about who this man is. Supple leather seats, deep sofas that fold completely flat for long-haul sleep on those international runs. Large entertainment screens, a proper conference area because even Slim Shady has serious business to handle at 40,000 feet. Advanced air purification systems, warm wood paneling throughout, mood lighting, high-end finishes that communicate real wealth without ever once announcing it out loud. There are no fur seats here, no gambling centers, no OVO branded pillows, no dollar signs painted anywhere. This is a flying sanctuary, built for reflection, built for rest, built for long stretches of quiet somewhere over the Pacific, where a man who spent decades pouring every painful detail of his life into music can finally just breathe. The script practically writes itself up there. The drama around Eminem's jet is blessedly minimal. Old stories pop up every now and then. Whispers of fans tracking his flight data. A reported airport incident in Melbourne back in 2019 that fed the tabloids for a brief moment before disappearing entirely. But no federal raids. No fabricated purchases announced on social media. No rap beef involving fighter jets or taxing mishaps. Just a man and his $70 million aircraft moving quietly and efficiently through the world's airspace while the rest of the industry treats every departure gate like a press release. If Eminem represents the gold standard of private jet discretion, our next entry is what happens when discretion gets completely swallowed whole, consumed entirely by controversy, by conviction, and by one of the most staggering public falls from grace in the entire history of the music industry. And that name is Diddy. There was a time, and it genuinely was not that long ago, when Diddy's Gulfstream G550 was the absolute definition of mogul energy. Sean Combs, Bad Boy Records, the architect of an empire that stretched from music to fashion to spirits to television. The man who defined an entire era of aspirational black excellence and wealth in America. He had a plane, and it was extraordinary. The G550 Air Combs was the airborne throne of one of the most powerful men in entertainment. Full stop. Built in 2015 and valued at $60 million. Intercontinental range. Seats for 16 passengers with proper sleeping arrangements for 6. A full galley kitchen, not a snack shelf, not a mini fridge, a real functioning kitchen. Premium entertainment throughout. High-speed Wi-Fi. Conference setups built for deal-making somewhere between time zones. The matte black exterior said power. The beige leather interior said old money. And the custom stairs reading Combs Air said, I know exactly who I am, and I want you to know it too. That was then. What happened in the years that followed is one of the most extraordinary and deeply troubling chapters in hip-hop history. In 2025, Diddy was convicted following a federal criminal investigation that sent absolute shockwaves through the entire music industry and far beyond it. While he sat incarcerated, the jet did not just quietly collect dust in some private hangar somewhere. It was rented out through a company called Silver Air, generating an estimated $4 million across 126 separate trips, with passengers reportedly boarding that aircraft without any idea whose plane they were actually stepping onto. The jet had already drawn serious heat during the federal investigation itself. Flight records showed it traveled to Antigua during the 2024 home searches conducted by federal agents. That detail absolutely dominated headlines for weeks and fueled endless speculation about what the aircraft had been carrying, where it had been going, and who had been on board. And then in October of 2025, it was over. The plane was sold for an estimated $20 to $30 million. Re-registered in San Marino under the tail number T7S. The Combs Air custom stairs, gone. The full galley kitchen, gone. The beige leather interior, gone. All of it liquidated to help cover the mounting legal fees as an entire empire came apart at every single seam simultaneously. Sean Combs went from being a monument to hip-hop success and black entrepreneurial excellence to becoming the most sobering cautionary tale this industry has ever produced. And the plane that once carried the most powerful man in music to his parties, his deals, his global events, it belongs to someone else entirely now. Flying under a different name, a different flag, a different life. From the jaw-dropping fall of one icon, we now turn to something almost refreshingly absurd. Because the next story is not about what a rapper owns. It is not about what a rapper built. It is about what a rapper claimed to own, got caught completely fabricating, and somehow almost impressively survived the embarrassment of anyway. And that name is Soulja Boy. DeAndre Cortez Way walked into 2011 with the energy of a man who had absolutely zero concerns about accountability. Zero. He announced to the entire world, with full, unshakable confidence and absolutely no receipts whatsoever, that he had purchased a Gulfstream G550 for $55 million as a birthday gift to himself. $55 million. Happy birthday, Soulja. The internet caught fire immediately. This was 2011, the era when hip-hop bravado first started colliding with early social media in ways that had not yet been fully stress-tested. Headlines went completely crazy. The story topped Yahoo searches for a brief but absolutely dazzling window of time. Soulja Boy was the subject of every single conversation about rap wealth, ambition, and self-gifting on a generational scale. And then his own spokesperson walked the entire thing back, called it grossly over-exaggerated, which is honestly the most diplomatic way any human being has ever said, this was a lie. The G550, the $55 million price tag, the birthday gift narrative. None of it was real, at least not the way it was presented to the world. What makes this story richer than it has any right to be is the pattern behind it. Soulja had already built a reputation for embellishing his material circumstances. A rented penthouse posed as own property. Claims of being the first rapper to do absolutely everything. The jet story was not an accident. It was the logical conclusion of a young man who achieved genuine, unprecedented success very early in life and was still figuring out exactly where flexing ends and fabricating begins. The internet clowned him immediately. Peers threw shade from every direction. Critics connected the dots between the jet story and a culture of hip-hop hype that occasionally lost its grip on verifiable reality entirely. But there is something almost endearing about the sheer audacity of it. Bold move, wrong execution, legendary chaos, and a reminder that in hip-hop, the story you tell about yourself sometimes matters just as much as the truth. Now, after the chaos of fabricated purchases and fallen empires, we move to a story that is the complete opposite of everything we just covered. Because this next entry is not about lies. It is not about scandal. It is not about a jet getting raided or sold off to pay legal fees. This story is about a man whose wife, one of the most powerful women on the entire planet, decided that Father's Day needed a serious upgrade. And that man is Jay-Z, Sean Corey Carter, Hov, the God MC co-founder of Roc Nation. One half of the most powerful couple in the history of entertainment. A man who started with nothing on the streets of Marcy Projects in Brooklyn and built one of the most diversified and valuable portfolios in American business history. Jay-Z does not do anything by accident. Every move is calculated. Every decision is intentional. And when Beyoncé decided to get her husband a Father's Day gift in 2012, she did not go to a store. She went to Bombardier, and she came back with a Challenger 850, $40 million for Father's Day. The rest of us got handmade cards and breakfast in bed. Jay-Z got a transcontinental aircraft. The game is not fair, and it never has been. The Bombardier Challenger 850 is built for a life that does not slow down for geography. The exterior carries an S. Carter monogram. Subtle, intentional, quietly powerful. No loud branding screaming for attention. No dollar signs painted anywhere on the fuselage. Just his initials. Because when you are Jay-Z, the monogram is more than enough. Everybody already knows. Step inside and you are walking into a sky-high penthouse. A master bedroom with a king-size bed, engineered specifically for safe and premium sleep at altitude. 2 full bathrooms stocked with high-end amenities because even at 35,000 feet, standards do not drop. A fully equipped kitchen for mid-flight meals that are absolutely nothing like airline food. And then a living room that comfortably seats up to 16 people in plush, ergonomic leather chairs that recline completely flat. Adjustable headrests, footrests, customizable zones for working or for total and complete relaxation. The color palette throughout is cream, brown, gold, black, and white. Elegant, restrained, timeless. This is not a casino in the sky. This is a flying penthouse, and it moves like one. The plane has been spotted touching down for Super Bowls, global concert tours, family getaways across 3 continents, and high-level business deployments that most people will never hear about. It is a flying extension of a lifestyle that exists in its own atmosphere, both literally and figuratively. But even Hov's jet catches heat. Reports surfaced of a 12-minute repositioning flight that burned 354 liters of fuel and released nearly a full ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Reddit went absolutely in. Critics framed it as peak out-of-touch energy, a man who built his entire mythology on grinding up from absolutely nothing, now burning the equivalent of a family car's entire annual carbon output just to move a plane a few miles for convenience. Whether that outrage is fair or simply the inevitable arithmetic of extreme wealth is entirely your call. What cannot be disputed is this. The Bombardier Challenger 850 is magnificent. The gift-giving precedent that Beyoncé set is completely unhinged in the best possible way, and Hov stays winning at every single level, from one magnificent aircraft to another. But our next entry comes loaded with rap beef, an alleged mid-air attack, an emergency landing, and a G55. That somehow got dragged into one of the most entertaining feuds of 2024, and that name is Rick Ross. William Leonard Roberts II. Rick Ross, the biggest boss. The man who replaced letters in his own name with dollar signs and has absolutely zero regrets about any of it. Ross spent months carefully hunting for the right aircraft before finally landing on a 2012 Gulfstream G55 in 2023. Months. Because when you are Rick Ross, you do not rush the acquisition of a flying mansion. You wait. You evaluate. You make absolutely sure the aircraft is worthy of transporting your Louis Vuitton luggage from the estate to the hangar. You take your time. The exterior is immediately, unmistakably, unavoidably Ross. Gloss black and pearl gold, 2-tone paint covering every inch of the fuselage. Rick Ross scripted in high reflective gold lettering along the side. The letter S replaced by dollar signs throughout. Biggest boss etched directly onto the engines themselves. A hidden flex that only someone physically close enough to the aircraft will ever even notice. And the tail number N33055, a direct nod to Miami's 305 area code and the 33055 zip code. Because even at 40,000 feet, Ross is repping exactly where he came from. Inside, the jet was completely rebuilt through Duncan Aviation to feel like a G600, which is Gulfstream's newer and significantly more expensive model. Beige and tan tones throughout with red accents because red is Rick Ross's entire aesthetic. Seating for 17 to 18 passengers in ultra-plush leather. Custom Louis Vuitton blankets sewn from authentic fabric. A state-of-the-art galley kitchen. Automated features throughout for seamless travel. The whole experience is not just a vehicle, it is an event. Ross has featured the aircraft in Hope Jets magazine, given full social media tours to his audience, and made it crystal clear that this jet is strictly for family and team only. No chartering, no strangers. You earn your seat on this plane. Very on brand for a man who has always controlled access like currency. But then came the Drake beef, and everything got significantly more interesting. Ross took direct shots at Drake's aircraft in diss tracks, clowning the Boeing 767 angle, poking at the age and the size of the plane like those things were somehow weaknesses. They are not, for the record. But then in one of the most genuinely surreal chapters of an already completely unhinged beef, Ross claimed that Drake's OVO F-16 fighter jet had shot his plane down following an incident in Texas. Fighter jets, aerial combat, hip-hop news cycle, 2024. The FAA told a very different story. The left landing gear got stuck in grass during routine taxiing on the ground. No shots fired, no enemy aircraft, no aerial warfare of any kind. Just a wheel and some turf. But by the time that correction actually landed in the news cycle, the internet had already fully and completely committed to the narrative of jet warfare between rap superstars. Memes flooded every platform. Counterclaims flew from every direction. An entire news cycle was born from what was essentially a taxing incident on a Tuesday, which is, in the most unexpected way possible, extremely Rick Ross of it. Now, from beefs that turned grass and landing gear into full-scale war stories, we move to an artist whose jet story went genuinely federal, because what agents found on board went way, way beyond a wheel stuck in some turf. And that name is Lil Wayne. Dwayne Michael Carter Jr. has never, not once in his entire career, done a single thing that could be described as uneventful. So it would be completely out of character for his private jet story to be anything less than absolutely extraordinary. And extraordinary it is, though not always in the way you would hope. Lil Wayne's Gulfstream, with reports going back and forth between a G3 variant and possible upgrades at various points in his career, is at its core a mobile studio, a flying trap house with serious luxury upgrades built for a man who seemingly never stops creating, never stops performing, and never stops moving forward. The interior features spacious beige leather seating throughout, wood finishes on every surface, multiple flat screens for music videos and NCAA games because Wheezy is also a deeply serious sports head. A premium sound system built specifically for actually enjoying music in flight the way it was meant to be heard. Advanced connectivity for on-the-go collaborations. Lay-flat divans for real rest on the long hauls between tour dates across the country and around the world. Think of it as a flying creative headquarters, the kind of space where someone could genuinely write an entire album, watch a full game, eat a proper meal, and sleep soundly, all without ever touching the ground. For a touring artist of Wayne's intensity and output, that is not indulgence. That is pure infrastructure. But December of 2019 changed the entire conversation around Wayne's aircraft permanently. Federal agents raided his plane at Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport, and what they found on board was not tour merchandise. It was not recording equipment. It was cocaine, heroin, MDMA, marijuana, and a gold-plated .45 caliber handgun. All of that on one aircraft. The story exploded to the top of every newsfeed simultaneously. Potential felony charges were immediately on the table. And the legal complications did not start or end in 2019. Wayne had been sued multiple times over the years for unpaid jet leases, racking up over $1 million in outstanding payments to companies who had customized the aircraft specifically for him. A court ordered a $2 million payment back in 2015. Law enforcement eventually seized his art collection to help settle the debt. And then in a completely separate incident, also in 2015, Wayne was reportedly removed from a different chartered flight mid-journey for smoking marijuana on board. Removed mid-flight for smoking weed on a plane, which sounds completely absurd until you remember that this is Lil Wayne. And nothing about his story has ever been anything other than completely, compellingly, undeniably extraordinary. From there, we land on our final entry, and it is the one that hits different from everything else on this list. Not because of the price tag, not because of the controversy, but because of the genuine, unfiltered, completely authentic joy attached to it. And that name is Ludacris. Christopher Brian Bridges. Luda. The man who somehow managed to be one of rap's most technically gifted lyricists and one of Hollywood's most beloved action stars at the exact same time. In 2022, after receiving an honorary degree from Georgia State University, Ludacris decided to mark the occasion in the most fitting way he possibly could. He bought himself a Hawker 700, his second private jet, as a graduation present to himself. The Hawker 700 is a mid-size workhorse, sleek black exterior, professional, not screaming for anybody's attention. The cabin is cozier than the G550s and Challengers we have been walking through on this list, but it fits the practical demands of Luda's life perfectly. Fast and furious shoots, music gigs, business obligations spread across the country. Inside, cream-colored leather seats in train-style rows with tables. Clean, functional, no gimmicks, sofas for lounging, a television for entertainment, a mini bar and galley for snacks and drinks. Comfortable, capable, and built for someone whose schedule absolutely never stops. But here is what makes the Ludacris story genuinely stand apart from every single other entry on this entire list. The Georgia State gear, the enormous, authentic grin on his face, the tour of the plane that plays like a man who actually cannot believe his own life, not performing disbelief for the cameras, not doing it for content or for views, but genuinely, authentically hyped beyond measure about exactly where he ended up after everything he has been through. That kind of sincerity is rare in the world of celebrity aviation flexes, and it hits completely different when you see it. There is some debate about the price. Analysts have pointed out that Hawker 700s as older model aircraft typically trade significantly below the $20 million headline figure. Short flight environmental debates apply here just as they do everywhere else on this list. But here is what carries absolutely zero controversy whatsoever. Ludacris, a kid from Champaign, Illinois, who grinded his way to one of the most enduring and respected careers in both hip-hop and Hollywood, standing inside his second private jet, wearing a Georgia State University shirt, singing about moving on up. As graduation speeches go, that one goes absolutely crazy, and that right there is the whole point of everything we just covered. From Drake's $185 million flying casino to Luda's graduation, Hawker 700. From Diddy's empire crumbling at 30,000 feet to Eminem moving silently through the world's airspace. From Soulja Boy's jet that never existed to Jay-Z's Father's Day miracle. From Rick Ross's aerial beef to Lil Wayne's federal raid. These are not just planes. These are stories. These are lives. These are the receipts of what it actually looks like when hip-hop ambition has absolutely no ceiling. And that is the full story of the most extraordinary private jets in rap history. From converted cargo planes worth nearly $200 million to graduation gifts at 40,000 feet. From federal raids to fabricated purchases. From fallen empires to genuine, unfiltered joy. Every single story on this list reminded us of one thing. In hip-hop, the ceiling does not exist. The ambition never stops, and the receipts are always spectacular. But here's the thing. We are just getting started. Because if you thought the jets were wild, wait until you see what these same artists built on the ground. Underground studios beneath $40 million mansions. Mobile recording setups rolling down highways inside luxury tour buses. Wyoming ranch compounds powered entirely by solar energy. 20,000 square foot spaceship complexes near Los Angeles. Studios that birthed some of the greatest albums ever made. The next video is already waiting for you right now. Click it. Watch it. Because trust us when we say this. What happens inside those studios is every bit as extraordinary as what happens 40,000 feet above them. If this video hit different, drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe. Because we are just warming up.